Hey guys, what is up? It is Zambash here. We're doing something a little different today. I, as you know from some other videos on my channel, have gotten into knife making, and I am getting ready to make another batch of knives and have been working on some different designs and stuff, and finally decided that I am ready to get a little more serious into knife making, so I have decided to drop a bunch of bucks and buy an AMK 77 grinder from Alan over at AMK Tactical. And that should be here sometime in a couple, 3 weeks. But in the meantime, we're going to work on building a workbench for it. Alan was kind enough to supply me with some dimensions that I would need so that we can make the workbench ahead of time. That way it'll be all ready to go when the grinder gets here, so of course there will be more videos coming for grinder unboxing and grinder review eventually, and some knife making videos. But for now today we're going to start working on this workbench, and the first thing we're going to do is cut up a bunch of steel tubing for our horizontal members. I'll figure I give you guys who may not be real familiar with machining and fabrication some little tips as we go through this process. I'm no expert by any means, but I've picked some things up from my dad over the years who is an expert, and the first thing you'll notice is that I was cutting that iron in the bandsaw at an angle, and the reason that you want to cut things at an angle like that in the bandsaw when possible is that you want to minimize the surface area that is in contact with the blade. The smaller the surface area you have in contact with the blade, the more pressure each tooth on that blade will have against the metal, meaning it cuts faster and builds up less heat. So if you can safely position something in a way that minimizes the surface area, you should do it. If we laid the bars in there flat, then the blade would be laying against those flats and take a long time to get through them. The next thing I'm going to do is deburr these bars that we just cut up. You want to deburr the ends because I'm going to be welding these together. And if you deburr the ends nicely, both inside and out, it'll make it so that they can butt up nicely against each other so you won't have any gaps when you're trying to do your welds. We're also going to poke some holes that bolts will go through the plywood top that I'll put on this. That'll be the hinging part to let the grinder turn horizontal. And we'll poke those holes now because it'll be a lot easier to do it now than when the thing is welded together. The reason I took the corners off the pieces like that I just did is because angle iron, if you look at it from the end, is not actually a sharp corner on the inside, it's rounded, which means if you take a sharp corner like this one and you're trying to weld something into the angle iron, you won't be able to get it all the way in there because it butts up against that inner radius. Whereas if you round it off, then you can fit it all the way snug into the angle iron for welding. And that's what we're going on to next, is welding. Alright guys, we're back up at the other house now that we've got those main horizontal members welded together. The next step is going to be to cut out the wooden top. It'll be two pieces that'll hinge so I can flip to a horizontal and vertical whenever I want with the grinder. So we're going to go ahead and cut those out and then set it up so that we can drill through the holes we drilled in the metal to get those exactly positioned at the top surface that will be bolted down. Now that the plywood for the top has been cut out, I'm going to get a couple coats of paint on it so that can start drying, and I'll head back down to the shop to start cutting out the metal for the vertical parts of the table. Alright, now that we have our vertical pieces cut to length, those are basically going to be the legs of the work table. We're going to go ahead and weld some little caps onto what will be the bottom ends, just so they don't have like a sharp angle at the bottom. I think it'd be nice if they had a flat surface. May eventually even put some rubber on the bottom of that flat surface, but for now we're just going to weld on some metal that I've used the old belt sander to put a little radius on, so they should make nice little feet welded onto there. Alright guys, now that I've got the legs cut out and the caps welded onto them, the next step is to go ahead and weld the legs onto the horizontal members. I've got to pick up one more leg in town today because I didn't have quite enough angle iron to make the fourth leg, but we'll go ahead and attach the three and then come back and do the other one later. Also, that really big piece of angle iron that I cut, that 3-inch angle iron that was real thick, that's going to serve as an upright on the base side of the wooden hinge assembly, such that when the other hinge comes up, that angle iron will stop it at 90 degrees, so the belt sander should be perfectly horizontal when I tip it up like that. I won't actually be going into town until a little later today for a physical therapy appointment. So for now I've come back up to the house and we're going to go ahead and attach that big piece of angle iron to our wooden base plate so that it will stop the other one when it hinges up. When I go into town for my physical therapy appointment, I'll get the metal that I need for the last leg, and we'll go ahead and weld the cap onto that, weld it onto the top, and then weld the bottom support into the whole structure. And there you have it. Just used a couple of 5/16 bolts with some big washers on the wood side, some smaller washers on the metal side just because that's what I had around. Used the bigger ones on the wood because it's softer, so you want more surface area. And I also didn't happen to have any locking nuts on me, so I just used a little Loctite with these nuts. That way they won't wiggle loose as the machine's in operation. And by pre-drilling the holes, we made sure that the edge will be perfectly aligned with the edge of the wood, as you can see it is. So that will make a nice perfect 90-degree angle for our vertical part to go against when we hinge the whole belt sander horizontal. Now, to continue getting as much done as possible before my town trip later today to get the last steel leg, I'm going to go ahead and start attaching the hinges to the pieces of wood. Alright guys, we are back down at the shop now after going to town and getting the material for the final leg. So you can see this is the table here. Zoom in on it a bit. It is standing up as it will be. All four legs are on with feet on all four legs. The whole thing is currently standing on top of the welding table. And now what I'm going to do is cut some little spacers that will go on top of each foot and help me hold up the second rectangle here, which will go near the bottom of the table to create a cube to make the whole thing really stable and strong, and that'll be a second shelf down there that I can put weight down on to hold the whole table down. So we're going to go ahead now and cut those spacers and get it set up for welding, and then we'll be back. Alrighty guys, I have carried the workbench back up to the house. Something I definitely shouldn't have done because I am doing physical therapy for a back injury right now, but the deed is done and my back doesn't feel too bad, so we're going to continue on. Finally done with all the welding, which I'm sure any of you who are actually good welders are grateful for, because my welding's probably pretty painful to watch for you. But now all we really have to do is bolt on the one wooden side that we put the hinges and the stop on. That will let us align the other wooden side, and we can attach the other side of the hinges, and we'll be done with the basic table. And there we have it. The basic workbench is completed. As you can see, we have the hinges all attached, and we can now hinge up this half of the table, which stops at 90 degrees because it runs into our nice big piece of angle iron there. And that is the basic unit done. Once the belt sander actually gets here, there will be some more things I will add on. Obviously the belt sander will be sitting here on the open side. I'll just have to bolt down its base plate to that when it gets here, and then I'll be able to tip the whole thing horizontal. One thing I'll likely add is just a supporting block of wood somewhere around here, wherever the engine, or rather the motor of the grinder ends up. Just a nice block there to support it, since that's a big heavy object. That'll take some of the stress off of this angle iron and hinges here. Other things I will add are some hooks out front here. We'll just screw through and then stick a piece of rod through with a little hook on the end and weld those in. One will be for like a catch bucket right under the grinder, and then there will be one over a little further for a water bucket for dipping blades to keep them cool. Probably have another hook over here for moving the water bucket over when I'm horizontal grinding, just so there's as little body movement as possible. I'll stick a wood shelf down here with some heavy stuff on it, just to weigh the whole thing down. There is just, probably can't even find it on camera, but there is just the tiniest little bit of rock. I think one of the feet is just slightly bent down, and that's what's causing just the tiniest little bit of rock. So I think I will probably put some rubber feet on the bottom of it, and then with the weight of the belt sander and stuff on it, that'll squish down and that'll get rid of any rocking action. The whole thing turned out really good. I'm really happy with it. I'll also probably build some shelving in here for storing grinder accessories eventually. But this is the basic unit that will accomplish my goal of holding the grinder at the right height and letting it tip up horizontal. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Turn on that little notification bell so you can actually see when new videos come out. The biggest way you can support this channel is just by sharing the videos with your friends and coming and watching when new ones come out. But recently I have been receiving some PMs and some comments regarding Patreon or PayPal donations, so I went ahead and opened a Patreon page. If you'd like to support the channel directly, Obviously, builds like this incur quite a bit of money cost. The gaming videos require quite a lot of time. So if you want to help the channel grow and see videos more often, you are sure welcome to head over to the Patreon. It is patreon.com/Zambash. Give whatever you feel like or don't give anything. Again, the biggest way you can help is just by sharing the videos and watching them. But I would love it if anybody feels like supporting more directly. And we'll see you on the next video.